Hello and welcome to episode number 6. So in this episode, we're gonna do the finishing. So we're gonna put all the tung oil, the polyurethane on the guitar. So things starting to come to life. I'm really excited. Last episode, we got all the finish sanding done. We went ahead and stained the guitar. So now we're gonna finish it. So without further ado, let's get to it. Here is the plan. So we got tung oil when we're using this circa 1850 stuff, tung oil. And basically, what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be applying it with a shop towel. These things are great because they don't leave behind any lint, unlike a regular towel. So these are nice for that. Plus, they're nice and soft as well. So I'm going to use that to apply the tung oil. I'm going to be using gloves as well because I don't want to get my hands soaked with the stuff. I'll also be using a respirator because tung oil does have quite a wicked stench. And so what I'm going to be doing is on the back and the sides, I'm going to be applying full strength tung oil on the neck, on the headstock as well. On the neck, I'm going to be thinning it down with mineral spirits to about 50%. That's a 50% mineral spirits, 50% tung oil. And that's how I'm going to do the back of the neck because I don't want the back of the neck to have a ton of tung oil on it. I want it to be nice and thin so I can have a nice satin finish. So it's a fast, smooth playing neck. While still having some protection, keeping the wood sealed. So we're going to get started. I'm not really going to tape anything up. I don't really need to. I mean, I'm sure I probably should, but whatever. I'm too lazy to do it. So let us get started. Gone and done the first coat. I made a big mistake. Honestly, probably shouldn't have used the mineral spirits because when I put the stain or the finish rather on the back of the neck, it actually took off some of the black stain that was there. So I'm not very happy about that. I'm pretty upset about that. So not very good from that standpoint. Anyways, we got the stain on, or we got the finish on there, the first coat. I'm going to build up quite a few coats. So I'm thinking on the back of the guitar, on the back of the headstock, pretty much everywhere but the back of the neck. I'm thinking 4 coats. And so the way each coat's going to work, I'm going to do exactly what I just did. And then after 15 minutes, buff off the excess with a clean rag. And then after a day, very light sand with 600, wipe it down again, and then repeat the whole process. So I'm going to do that 4 times. I don't think I'm going to be using the thinned down version of the tung oil. I ended up just disposing that cup. So unfortunately, a lot of that stuff just went to waste, which I like to be resourceful. So I'm pretty upset about that. But at the end of the day, I mean, you live and you learn. You make mistakes. That's the only way you're going to learn, I suppose. And so if you do have stain on the back, don't use mineral spirits. It just lifted the stain right off the guitar, unfortunately. So I'm going to wait 15 minutes. It's probably already been like 10. So I'm going to give it another 5 minutes, and then I'm going to wipe it down. And then we'll do the front. So I'll see you guys then. All right, I buffed off the excess just using a clean rag. I'm trying to be very gentle with the rag because I think I'm actually removing some of the stain as I do this. So I'm gonna flip it around and we'll do the top now. Okay. All right, so the plan, we're gonna use full strength tung oil from now on for the whole thing. So I don't have a lot of these shop towels. Another mistake I made was using an entire one. I think I'm going to kind of rip them up a little bit so I can use, one rag a couple times as opposed to just using one rag once and then throwing it out. So same thing on the top. We're going to use use the tung oil. I think this is going to be exciting because we'll see the grain is going to start to pop, hopefully. So we'll see what happens. All right, so I've applied the first coat of tung oil, and the grain is really starting to pop. on the top, so that's really exciting. I'm going to go ahead and actually just put some of this excess just along the sides of the neck. Let's do that. And again, in about 15 minutes, I'll buff it all off with a clean rag again. But it's kind of hard to. All right. It'll be hard to tell, but that green is really starting to pop. That's looking really beautiful. I was honestly like extremely concerned, and then I got it on the headstock now too. I was really concerned after I'd finished, doing the dyeing yesterday that, the tiger striping wasn't gonna pop very well. I was really worried about that. And so luckily, it's not gonna be too much of a concern because the tiger striping is popping a fair bit. So, once I start building up more coats of tung oil, it'll start to get more of a wet kind of look. Because right now it's just one coat, and when you're using a rag and you're rubbing it in, it's going to be a pretty thin coat anyways. If I had to do this differently, I probably would have used a foam brush first, because you can get a nice thick coat with that with the foam brush. So, if I do decide to build another guitar in the future, I'll definitely be using a foam brush for the first coat. But yeah, I'm going to wait 15 minutes. I'm going to buff this off. I'm going to let this sit overnight, and then tomorrow I'll come back. And I think what I'll do is for the next couple coats, I'll just do like a video montage of me just going in, doing the coat. And so all you need to really know is that in between coats after a day, I'm just sanding it down with 600 and very light with 600. So yeah, I'm going to do that now, and I'll see you guys once this thing has got all 4 coats of tung oil. Got all the tung oil coats done. Now it's going to be time to put our top finish on. I'm going to be using some of this Minwax fast drying polyurethane. I'll be using this stuff. It's a clear gloss for the top and for the headstock, as well as my sandpaper falls off the table. So basically, what my goal is for this is to get a nice shiny top. That's also going to provide a hard protective finish, so keep it free from dust, scratches, and all that. So I've done all the tung oil. I'll be honest, I mean, it's my first time I've done it. I can't say I'm super happy with the results. There's some certain rough spots, so hopefully once now I put this gloss on, it'll kind of hide all that. So what I'm going to start by doing is take this 1000 grit, and I made some mistakes during the finish sanding. I kind of put some grooves in the guitar by using my fingers. So I'm going to be using just a sponge on the back of this so I can press down a little firmer and get even application all across. I'm not going to sand too hard. Essentially all I'm trying to do is just smooth this out, because there's some spots where it's kind of rough and other spots where it's smooth. So I'm going to smooth this out, and then we're going to start applying that polyurethane. I've got it all smoothed out. You can kind of tell from looking at the camera that it's pretty rough. You can see kind of those streaks that run down, and I'm sure there's probably something I could do about it, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's my first guitar. There's going to be blemishes, there's going to be flaws with it, so I think I'm probably going to leave that in. I think just things like that add some character to the overall kind of build. So what I'm going to do now is So the way this polyurethane works, so you're gonna put a coat on and you're gonna wait about 3 or 4 hours for it to dry, and then you're gonna buff it off with some 220 to get it smooth, and then do another coat. And so the whole goal is to get a nice, clear, reflective finish that's durable. That's gonna protect it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some tape down. I'm gonna tape off the sides and the neck as well, so I don't get the polyurethane on that. Because I'm a bit of a loose cannon when it comes to using brushes. So I'm gonna do that now. I'm gonna take this off. Okay, I've taped everything off. I've gone in and filled the cavities in with tape and the headstock as well. So I'll be applying the finish or this poly to the top of the headstock as well to get a nice protective finish. So it is going to be glossy when I put it on. Sorry, excuse me. It will be glossy when I put it on there. You can get rid of that gloss afterwards and kind of sand it down to a satin finish. So I might do that for the headstock. I might. We'll see. But I definitely want the body to be glossy. So I'm going to put some gloves on. We're going to open this up. Before I do that, I'm going to put my respirator on because the stuff doesn't smell very good. And we'll get started. All right, so we got the polyurethane on there. It looks amazing. It's clear. It's all glossy. As my charger falls off the freaking table. I hate the fact this thing doesn't run on battery anymore. So I'll try to show it to you. So you can see the camera reflection. Oh my God, it's dropping everything. You can see the camera reflection now. The issue here is there is a lot of bubbling going on, and I tried my hardest to kind of. You can see that. You can see kind of those dimples. I'm not really sure why that happened. Maybe it's because I'm using a cheap brush. I mean, I got this brush for like $3, Canadian Tire, and the packaging said use a high quality brush or a foam brush, and I guess I'm using neither, so that's probably why that happened. I'm hoping that once I sand this, I can get it smooth without those bubbles. If not, I'll probably have to start again, and then I'll have to zoom in for the headstock. So that's what the headstock's looking like. It's got the coat of poly on there. So I'm going to let this sit for about 4 hours. And so I think right now it's around 10:30. So I'll come back around 2:30 and we'll sand this down with 220, just a very light sand, just to get the even nice and finish. And then we'll put the second coat of poly on. So for now I'm going to leave this here and I'm going to let this dry. And I'll see you guys in a bit. All right, it's been about 3.5 hours. I had to go do a bunch of things, including washing my lovely hair. I have a lot of it, so hopefully that doesn't cause a problem. So I've gone in, I've done the first coat. It's been about 3.5 hours. It's dried really nicely, and a lot of those bubbles that I was concerned about didn't really end up showing up much. Like, that's looking really shiny. Like, I really like the way this looks. This looks like actually like a factory Les Paul that you would get. And then here's a look at the headstock. Nice and shiny. So I'm really, really happy with how this is looking now. I was pretty bummed out after I finished the tung oil coats because I was like, this isn't looking that great. But after the first coat of polyurethane, this is looking really nice. So the next step now is I've got some 220 grit and a sponge. And essentially what I'm going to be doing now is just doing a light sand. And the reason why I'm using 220 is because that's what's recommended on the label for the polyurethane. That's what they recommend. Just do a light sand. Essentially all you're doing is just making sure that it's even. And then now I'm going to do the second coat, and we're going to wait 24 hours, let it fully dry, fully cure, and I'm going to put this in an environment where there's no dust and there's a ventilation fan going on constantly, so that way nothing settles on top of this. So let's get started and let's see what it looks like at the end of it. All right, I got the second coat of lacquer, not lacquer, sorry, polyurethane clear coat, all done. Looks like lacquer because it's so shiny. And you can get this fast drying polyurethane in different finishes. You can get semi-gloss. This is full on clear gloss. I'm gonna zoom in from a distance, so you can see, like, there are some bubbles and whatnot. That was also there the first time I did the clear coat, and they were not there when it dried. So I am not as worried this time around because I think those bubbles just will kind of even out on their own. And then here's a look at the headstock. You can see, obviously it's a bit textured, and of course over time it's going to even out by itself. And the plastic inlay is really starting to pop now, which is nice, the perloid. And so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put this inside a very well ventilated area inside the house. And so I think I'm actually going to call it there because all that's left is essentially just waiting 24 hours for this to dry. And you've already seen what this looks like. So once it's dry, it'll pretty much be the start of the next episode, which I'm not quite sure what I'm going to be doing because I can't move on to the wiring just yet because there's a certain part that I'm waiting for, and it's going to take about a month for it to come in. So the next episode, I'm not quite sure if it's going to be anything to do with drilling holes for hardware, but we'll see what happens when I get there. But that is a wrap for episode 6. So in this episode, we did the finishing rather. So we put all the coats of tung oil on the fretboard, on the rest of the guitar, and then we applied the polyurethane finish. So that's a wrap, and I will see you guys next episode.